This is the living room of a house that was cut in half, put on a truck and moved to this section. Needless to say, it's going to need to be renovated. In this video here, we're going to show you the process from start to finish. Coming up, we'll show you a time lapse of the renovation. We'll give you a breakdown of the old and new floor plan, and we'll analyze the project in detail. Stick around to the end of the video to see the finished renovation and my #1 tip for keeping costs down. First up, let's introduce you to this job. The house was originally on a different section around the corner, and to make room for it on this site, we had to push the existing house here to the back of the section. When the house was moved, we rotated the house 90 degrees to make it work better with this site. Once the house was moved, we did an original walk around. One of the things we're looking at as we do this walk around is what are some of the small, easy changes we can make to the house that will make a big difference to the way people live in them. For example, removing the wall between the toilet and the bathroom makes both rooms feel much bigger, way more usable space, modernizes the house. Also, utilizing some of the dead spaces, looking at what walls we can knock out. Is it worth putting in a beam if the wall is load bearing? That's the only thing that's missing right now, is getting to those dead areas.
Can we put bifolds in?
We could. What would be nice is to find an older pair. On that note, walls.
Yeah, so it's all got to go.
Okay.
So that one,
Yeah.
definitely. That one, definitely.
I've talked to the engineer, talked to the designer, and they're all happy to change the plans because it's going to have a beam. So the engineer needs to suss out the beam. Anywhere we do an opening as well, we're going to have to put that on the plans. But the good news is we can. The original floor plan was quite compartmentalized. We had a small kitchen in the corner here with another small dining room next to it, and then a lounge off the edge of the dining room. But to get from the lounge to the bedrooms, you had to go through the dining room, and quite a large hallway here space that wasn't utilized for anything. Lots of random sized cupboards. You had a really small bathroom with an individual loo next to it, and a disproportionately sized laundry. In general, the proportions of this house were off. If you were starting again and you had to use the same square meterage, you would definitely lay this house out different. One of the first things we worked out early on is we wanted to remove these 3 walls, identified wall 1, 2 and 3. That meant that we would have a large open plan living, kitchen, dining, which is a more modern feel. And we talked about putting the French doors in wall 4 onto the new deck that we were building. And we wanted to remove wall 3 between the loo and the bathroom and make that one nice room. In order to make that happen, we had to chuck 4 beams in the wall, and we also had to put a lintel above the French doors here. We also had to do some additional bracing. This is the original house bracing. This is the new revised bracing. As you can see here, we've increased the bracing unit to 254% of the original house. While we were waiting for the plans to go through council, we did as much work as we could outside. We got on with planting and landscaping. This landscaping plan here shows how all of the outdoor areas on both lots will be used, where cars will get parked, where clotheslines and rubbish bins will go, even down to where we're putting planting and what plants we're putting in. Great to have a plan like this to follow, makes it nice and easy, captures all of the ideas on one page. Then the boys got inside and did demo. We found some suspicious looking flooring that we got tested for asbestos. It came back as negative, so we carried on with demolition, still wearing masks and looking after our lungs. We opened up the kitchen, lounge, bathroom. We covered up the old fireplace and we got the French doors in. We removed the back door, we cladded it over, we put the new beams in. Then once consent came through, we got the new insulation in, we got the beams inspected, and we were able to do jib, plaster and paint. Once the walls had been painted, we could crack on with flooring, kitchen and finishing off the bathroom. The new house looks amazing. Let's take a look at the transformation. One of my biggest tips for renovation is to do as much as possible without triggering the need for a consent. Aim to remove walls that aren't load bearing. Aim to not touch the exterior envelope of the build. Less is more in this case. As soon as you have a consent, the cost turn into 5 figures. Just to get consent, it's looking at 10 grand. And then you've got to do all the work to tick all the boxes. You've got to get all that work inspected. And what I also notice is once you start drawing plans, you start changing more and more things. Have a really clear brief and a really clear budget before you start the process. And then work out if your budget and brief needs a consent or not. If you can make those changes, if you can make it a refresh, remove a wall here or there, give everything a tidy up without triggering consent, and that ticks your brief, then go ahead down that path. That will be the simplest option. If your budget and brief requires a consent, then make sure you have a really clear definition of the need to have, nice to have and out of scope. What happens is in the planning stage, it's easy to get carried away and remove all the walls or make huge amounts of changes, and that can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars of work on site, but it doesn't actually change your quality of life hundreds of thousands of times or the value of your home. One of the very first renovations I did, I took 2 sets of plans to a valuer, and one of them was doing extensive works and doing an add-on, and I thought that that would clearly add value, but it didn't increase the house value as much as the cost of the reno. Then I ran a second scenario and a second plan through the valuer where we only changed the internal floor plan. We still needed a consent to move walls, but we spent a lot less money, less than half the money, and we added a 2-to-1 ratio on the return because we turned a 3-bedroom house into a 4-bedroom house. Subscribe for more tips like this.